All right, we've got two features to talk with you about today, dynamic refresh and timed events. As you can see, we'll be starting with dynamic refresh. Super excited to introduce this to you guys. Genuinely, we think this is going to change the way creators build within Unqork. So let's dive into it, shall we? And a quick note, for both of these features, we'll be giving some details around availability, when you can start getting your hands on them and deploying them in your apps, all that good stuff. Here are some general definitions to adhere to. We'll also kind of restate these when we talk the actual availability towards the end of each feature. Jumping right in, dynamic refresh. I think end users are increasingly demanding more immersive applications. Whether it's built on Unqork or not, right? Almost doesn't matter. We use progressive web apps like Gmail, Spotify, etc. And immersion is key. So what does that mean? We've taken a stab at defining that here. Rich content. Unqork provides a diverse suite of components, whether that's your staples like input components, dropdowns, text fields, whether that's more advanced layouting capabilities, charting, grids. Ultimately, that represents should be rich in its ability to present that content. Contextualness. End users fundamentally are looking to have information that's relevant to them. What does that mean? Could be based on their role, could be based on their navigation flow within the app, where they're at in accomplishing their task, right? Could be based on actions they're taking in the screen, button clicks and showing additional information, but fundamentally that information should be relevant. And finally, seamlessness. This is where I think dynamic refresh really opens up the door. Content, whenever we're changing it on the screen, should feel seamless, and it should retain the user's attention as they're making those actions. So, in other words, we shouldn't be reloading the page, right? So I talked about immersion to lead off this session. So fundamentally, what is the goal of dynamic refresh? It's to deliver your end user's content seamlessly. How are we going to do that? We'll be able to refresh sections of Unqork apps, in this case you saw a panel, on the fly, at runtime, all leveraging the power of Unqork to decide when, what, and where, and how that works. So what does that really mean? Ultimately, you as a creator will be expected to provide two things to accomplish two simple tasks: fetching and rendering. So to fetch, we'll need you to provide which component definitions you'd like to bring into the module at runtime, right? Anyone who's used module import is very familiar with doing exactly this. Rendering, effectively, when should we show that content to the user? And here's where the power of Unqork, I think, really gets showcased, right? We have all these logic components, data workflows, decisions, initializers, that allow you to latch onto events, whether that's manual events from the end user, button clicks, or whether that's system events like page loads and editing submissions. You can still use all of that to decide when you're going to render that content and ultimately refresh it back into your panel. And this modularity is key. We could have built this in such a way that you click one press and both of these happen at the same time. But I think what we'll find as we go through some more advanced examples compared to what we just saw, this ability of breaking up the fetching and rendering step allows for full flexibility at the end of the day. You as a creator can choose what you want to render, when you want to render it, and can repeat this effectively ad infinitum, right? Now let's zoom in and understand what a refresh component is and how this all works at the end of the day, right? So key takeaway, refreshed components, i.e. the components we brought to life on the fly, are first-class citizens. So anyone who's familiar with the Unqork platform will probably be asking, how does this work when I have certain panel settings applied? What if I'm showing the panel as a modal? Will this still work? Short answer, yes. Logic operations. If you have logic components that are targeting the components within the panel, it'll work. Same thing vice versa. Intra and inter logic component operations work in any direction. Validations are invoked and evaluated exactly the same. So all of your settings and Logic related to that will be able to be maintained. Submission data is still storing for these components within that main module that you brought them into effect. And we'll even auto-bind. So if you're loading submissions from, say, a different module and the keys happen to match up, those incoming components will render that data automatically. And finally, if you're going to create a submission, maybe you have a save button within that panel that's got refreshed components, that submission will be created against the main module for later use. So when will this feature be available? Well, right now, we're in an early access program. If you'd like to be added, I suggest you contact your customer success representative or reach out directly to me. Happy to have you. It's super exciting stuff, and I know there's lots more yet to come. General availability is right around the corner. 6.71 platform release in a couple weeks from now, end of November. This will be available for you to freely use and configure in all the flexible ways you just saw. And yeah, without further ado, I'd love to pass it off to my counterpart here, Yotam. We're going to talk timed events for you.
Excellent. Thank you, Corey.
There you go.
Thank you. All right. Hello, everyone. So as Corey mentioned, my name is Yotam. I'm a senior product manager here at Unqork, and I work on the workflow team. So the workflow, for those of you who don't know, there's modules, which are your pages or your steps that users go through, and workflow is the brain of your application. It's where you visualize your no-code application. It allows you to see your automated and your user flows. And what's really cool about it is it can also handle complex decision-making, and you can divide up between different user tasks, multiple users, all with role-based access control. So you can make sure people cannot see what they're not supposed to see and can only do the tasks they're supposed to do. So today I'm going to walk you through my coffee workflow and the improvements we've made as a company to my coffee addiction. So the current way that I make coffee is, I measure the beans, add the water, put it in a French press, I press the coffee, drink it, and I go back to work. But one of the cool things about workflow is you can use timers to better orchestrate your flows. So for example, I make coffee every day, 7 a.m., measure the beans, add the water. Importantly, I have to wait 4 minutes before I press the coffee, press it, drink it, get back to work. However, we've noticed that our customers need a lot of flexibility here. They need to be able to set significant different types of timers to better orchestrate their applications. So one of the things we introduced in this past year is a lot of flexibility here. So for example, I don't go into the office on Fridays, and I obviously don't need coffee at 7 a.m. on the weekends. So now we can set a timer Monday through Thursdays every 2 hours, because I have a problem, from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. My girlfriend, she drinks a lot less coffee than I do. She doesn't drink it in the summer for some reason. She does it 10:15, only on Mondays, only November through March. Luckily, Unqork can easily handle this as well. But this demo is about me, it's about my coffee problems, and how I need to optimize them. So one problem that I have is I have a tendency to multitask while I'm waiting these 4 minutes. And if I forget to come back and press the coffee, it's ruined. So I need a way to not only orchestrate this task, but enforce it as well. Which brings us to our newest feature, timed events. With this, I can change the flow of my workflow based off of an action. So here, if 30 seconds pass and I didn't press my coffee, send myself an email. Another minute passes, I send myself another email. I can send an email to me, I can send a message to my girlfriend, I can send a message to my boss saying, I haven't pressed my coffee yet, it's gonna get ruined. So all of this is pretty basic functionality for SLAs, for service level agreements. The ability to send messages and to let people know that they have a task that they haven't completed or that they need to complete, or they will fail their SLA. But one of the things that Unqork can do is you can actually use Unqork to completely change your workflow, completely change your tasks, change data, do things like, for example, I can assign this to my girlfriend. I can say after 5 minutes, if I still haven't pressed my coffee, it's her job now, she's the one who has to do it, and hopefully she can do it before it gets ruined. And there's lots of different use cases for this. I mean, you can use it, for example, as I mentioned, service level agreements, where someone has a task, and if they don't complete it in time, it can be escalated or it can be reassigned to somebody else. It can be used for things like cart abandonment, where somebody, maybe if they put something in their cart and they don't check out, you can send them a discount code, you could notify them and let them know that they have something that they still need to purchase. And it can even be used for things like debugging, where if you have an automated task and you have a certain amount of time for it to be completed. If it doesn't complete, do something else, like notify IT, rerun, run a different task, etc. And most importantly, you can monitor this information. So you can gather data about if an SLA is not going to get hit in time, if it's passed, if it's failed, and that way you can better come back and say, this needs to be escalated, this needs to be remade, this needs to be paid better attention to run more effectively. So where is this now? Currently this is in beta. We have it in an early access program similar to the dynamic modules. So if you're interested, please reach out to your customer support team, or you can reach out to me directly and we can help you set it up. And for those who are interested in it when it comes out to general release, this will be in Q1 2023, so early next year. Cool, and I think that's it. So I think we have some spare time, so if you guys have any questions, I think we'd be happy to answer them now. And if not, we can take them at this Genius bar that we're running outside.